Folks, this is really the first podcast or first interview for my new podcast, The True American. Some people who are not too familiar with Kentucky history may not understand why I call my new podcast The True American, but to give a brief history to those who are not familiar with Kentucky history. The True American was the name of a newspaper that was established by a radical abolitionist, and that radical abolitionist was named Cassius Clay. So, and he was out of Fayette County there. And when I say radical abolitionist, I say that because he was, like so many abolitionists at the time, many times their lives were threatened. So he put a cannon in his office and challenged people, oh, you want to come after me for speaking out against slavery? Well, you can come. So first issue, the True Abolitionist, and my guest today is a person I've interviewed in the past. Go to my website, booktalkwithcorbin.com, Sister Beanie, and she's going to talk to us today. First, I wanted her to come and talk to us today about Christian schooling and homeschooling, but during the preliminary discussion, she started telling me, I got another appointment to go to later today, and she started telling me, she was trying to get some porno taken out of some school libraries. And, well, I'm going to have you just take it from here, sister. What do you mean by there's some pornographic books? You're talking about public school libraries. You're talking about, books that are accessible to young minds. Am I getting this right?
Yes. Some as early as elementary school, yes.
Now, when you say, you use the word pornographic, are you by any chance exaggerating a little bit, just a little bit?
Well, I guess it depends on your definition of pornography, but when you have a picture of a man and a boy and engaged in oral sex inside a graphic novel written for young adults, I consider that pornographic. I wouldn't let my children go see a movie with a scene like that in it. So why would I let them check it out from a book or a public library or a school library?
That's not only pornographic, that's criminal. That's child abuse.
Well, we have other books that they don't have pictures. We have another book, Lawn Boy, that has instances of pedophilia in it, very descriptive. Again, if the book were made into a movie, the movie would be an R-rated movie. And to be into an R-rated movie, you have to be 18. And very few of our high school students are actually 18, some seniors, but not all. And so they can't go see a movie with a scene like that in it without their parents signing off on it, but they can go into their school library and check out a book with that scene very vividly described in that book, among others. There are so many that some days it is gut-wrenching, because part of our research is finding out what's in these school libraries. And obviously there are certain books that have difficult things that they talk about, and we want to make sure that we're not coming across as book banners and book burners and things like that, because that's not what we're about. But what we are about is protecting childhood innocence. And what these books are doing is stripping away that childhood innocence that every child deserves to have. And every parent has the right to determine if, when, and how certain topics are introduced to their child. And I don't believe that it's the government's job to do that. And when I say government, I'm talking public schools, because they are government entities. And so the government has stepped in and has decided, we are the ones that are going to teach your child about these issues, and we are going to decide at what age it's going to happen. And one way we're going to do that is through library books.
When you initially, before we actually started this interview, and you said there's some bigger issues here, just in the couple of minutes 2-3 minutes you just spoke, absolutely. There's sorts of major issues here.
Yeah.
And how did you find out about this kind of? I'm stunned, to be perfectly honest with you. But how did you find out about these books are even there in the library?
Well, as you know, we've been knee deep in all things education for the last 2+ years now. And we initially started with the critical race theory and the social indoctrination and things like that were happening. But then what we came to find out, we actually then learned about social emotional learning, which opened up another can of worms of comprehensive sex ed, which opened up another can of worms of one way that they're bringing this stuff into our kids is through library books. And then these books came about. And I have to tell you, the first time that I saw the book that I was talking about that showed the picture of the oral sex is Gender Queer. And the first time that I saw that, I think that was Nicole Solas. She's the mom in Rhode Island who's being sued by the teachers union for asking too many questions about what her child was going to be learning in school. And the first time I saw it, I thought, there's no way that this book is in public school libraries. There's no way. Mm-hmm. Well, we filed an open records request because we actually went on the online catalogs here in JCPS and searched for several of the book titles that we were aware of that had specific content in it. And they were not listed under the online catalogs. So I thought, okay, well, that's good. JCPS hasn't brought it in yet. Well, we did an open records request to find out which schools had, I think we asked for 5 book titles. Well, come to find out, we got a lot back that actually have the books on the shelves. And my vice president, Miranda Stovall, has actually communicated with principals, has met with principals, and has asked them to remove the books that they have from their shelves. She's, explained very clearly why we feel like those books need to be removed. She's gotten responses back from Liberty High School, J-Town High School, one more, Atherton High School. They're all 3 keeping the books because they said that they meet the needs of the LGBTQ community, to which point we had the question of, why do teenagers who are questioning their sexuality need pornography to come to terms with it? Because we would not offer pornography to heterosexual children in order for them to come to terms with their sexuality. We wouldn't do that. But for some reason, we feel like it's necessary to offer that to young people who are either questioning or have decided, different sexuality. We just don't understand why, because they are now identify as something other than heterosexual. Their childhood gets stripped away and they are now exposed to pornography or explicit sexual scenes in these books. Mm-hmm. So we can't get an explanation for, they just, to defend this stuff. There are other books out there that can help these kids work through these situations. They don't need to be exposed to this material in order to do that. These books are not going to help any young person be more empathetic or compassionate. That's not what these books are about. They said they tell a story, and that's, they're like, well, you have to take the pictures in a story or the content in a story. There's no putting this into context that's going to make it okay. Again, I go back to, if this were made into a movie, it would be an R-rated movie, and I would not let my children go to that movie, as most parents would not, if these scenes were turned into movies. So again, why is this okay for children? I don't care how they identify sexually. They're still children. And, our schools should be protecting their innocence and their minds and should be providing them with quality literature. That's a whole nother topic that we can talk about, that, there's only so much room on a library shelf, and in place of these great, wonderful classics. I know you and I share a love of classics, and I love that at More Grace, we're introducing more classics every day. It's wonderful. But many students are being deprived of that because these library books are taking the place of many classics. And I know the classics are being thrown out. I got tubs of them that were thrown out from a public school not too far from me, to take down to More Grace. So
let me, for my listeners who haven't heard you before, and again, you can go to my website and booktalkwithcorbin.com and speak to many of my prior guests. But when you say we, you're talking about your organization. Could you just briefly give us a description of your organization?
Sure, absolutely. I am the Kentucky chapter head for No Left Turn in Education, which is a national grassroots organization that started, we turned a year old on August 28th of this past year. The Kentucky chapter is in January. We were just a year old. So we're very new. We're really just a bunch of parents who through virtual learning, discovered the realities of what was actually happening in the classroom. Since then, we've evolved, and our mission has become clear that what we really are striving for is quality education for all students that really encourages virtue, pursuit of excellence, beauty, just quality, and it's not this. So
right.
we're,
And you're part of a national organization or national movement?
Yes. So No Left Turn Education is a national organization, and I'm not sure how many chapters we have across the country now, but we've got a very, very vibrant Kentucky chapter here, and lots of very active parents from all over the state. Obviously, Jefferson County is sort of the epicenter of much of this, but it's happening everywhere. I mean, Boone County, McCracken County, Bowling Green, Fayette County, Fort Thomas Independent Schools. It's, unfortunately, it's much wider spread than I ever imagined.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm studying right now because just in a few minutes, you just said something. I just find it hard to wrap my head around that. There was a gentleman on Twitter the other day sort of arguing with me that, he said I was lying, that these books are not in the school. And I was like, well, we did an open records request. They're there. We've talked to the principals. They know they're there. The principals have pulled them off the shelves, have read them, and have said, these books are going to stay. We had our school board member. We sent them to our school board members, and they said that they're going to stay because they're inclusive. I'm like, well, pornography isn't necessary to be inclusive. So, but this gentleman, I mean, he was basically calling me a liar, because how in the world can adults allow this type of material to be in front of our kids without parent permission? So that's the other part of this. These kids can go. I had 4 kids in school at the same time. At one point, I had 4 kids in 4 different schools. My kids were voracious readers. So they all would have had a chapter book going at any time, because people say, well, you need to check and see what your kids are reading. Well, I had 4 kids reading huge chapter books all the time. I can't go through every single thing that they're reading to know. And there are some kids who will check those books out and never bring them home. So their parents may never know that they're reading that kind of material, because you don't have to have a special permission to check those books out. They're just on the shelf. But in response to that man's criticism, you went to the source.
Yeah.
You went to the source and you asked them, and they acknowledged it. It's not like they hid it. They admitted it. They acknowledged it. Then you went to the principals and you said, hey, this is there. We want it removed. And it's not like the principal said, you don't know what you're talking about. You're lying. They acknowledged, yes, it's here. And their response was, for some of them anyway, it's staying.
Yep.
Okay, so I just want people to be clear about that. I want people to be very, very clear about that. And now, what's your Facebook page? You have a Facebook page, website?
We do. Well, we have a national website. The noleftturn.us is our website, and we have lots of resources there. There's places where parents all over the country have shared their stories. You can actually go and find the stories that have been shared in Kentucky, and then you can go even further than that and find the stories that have been shared from your district. So that's there. We have a Facebook page. We have a national public Facebook page. No Left Turn in Education, a national private Facebook page, No Left Turn in Education. And then Kentucky has both public and private as well, No Left Turn in Kentucky Facebook pages. And I'm on Twitter as well. So
okay. Someday, if it's okay with you, you'd said that I think it was Sister Stovall has done a little bit of work on this. I'd love for, if you could make it possible for me to interview her in more detail about this, because this is too much. This is too much. But I do want to touch upon something that you brought up: parental authority. Parental authority. Do you get the impression? And don't let me put words in your mouth, but do you get the impression that the public schools, and you characterize the public schools as government schools, which they are, they're government schools,
they are,
that they are sort of not really respecting parental authority? Is that the impression you sometimes get?
Oh, absolutely. COVID has blown that door wide open with decisions that they are trying to make for our children in regards to their health decisions. The whole masking thing, that's parental authority. Vaccines, that's parental authority. Talking to your kids about their gender identity